Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Football Manager 2019 with Zebu Nation. We are here. It is time for the 2022 Preseason Spectacular. Last episode, we showed you the off-season Spectacular. Went through our draft picks, went through who we released in the off-season and who we got rid of, and, a couple of people that we brought in, but not a significant number that we brought in because we do that mostly in the preseason because the transfer window doesn't actually open until MLS preseason is just about to start. So we kind of have to wait for that. So that's why we do the transfer moves during this particular series. So that's what we're going to get to today. I think we can kind of jump right into it. Now, we do have a lot of competitions this year. Not only do we have MLS, we got U.S. Cup, we got North American Champions League, we got the Champions Cup, which we're runner-up in both of these last year. So we're going to focus on these two competitions a little bit more this season. So that kind of brings us to the off-season philosophy. The off-season philosophy I had this year was keep the starting 11. Don't mess with the starting 11 because we got nice chemistry going on there. But then look for some young players to bolster the reserves, and then look for some big-time players to bring in and perhaps win some of these Champions League. Like, I think we're just a breath away from winning these competitions. So if we could just get a little bit more firepower, some star power to put us over the top, we might be able to win these competitions, and that's going to be kind of the focus of this season. So that was the philosophy going into the offseason, but unfortunately I didn't really have a great plan in mind to execute that philosophy. So the moves that I made this offseason were a little scattershot, a little crazy, a little undisciplined, let's say. We'll start with some weird moves that I made, and those weird moves take us to the academy. Which, as you can see, I brought in a bunch of terrible players into the academy. Why would I do that? Well, last episode you noticed that our academy, it's bugged or there's something wrong with it. I don't know what's happening with the academy, but every year it seems like our academy resets back to zero. All the players leave, whether they're 18 years old or not. They just leave, and then we get like 4 new players, which is what we got down here. We got 4 players. So I decided to go out and just find any American player who didn't have a club and who wasn't an amateur and was under 18. Basically, just every unemployed 18-year-old American, decided to give them a job. Unfortunately, I should have brought them in on trial instead of just scooping them up, which is what I did. I just cast a net into the ocean and scooped up all these terrible players. So, as you can see, they're not very good. They don't have good potential. I mean, we got a couple of guys here. Matt Acosta, he's okay, I guess. He's got some pace. He's got, some mental attributes, which aren't bad. Some technical attributes, which aren't bad. He would be better if he was 16 years old with these attributes, but, he's sort of the best of the crop, honestly. We got Ross Phillip, a striker, who's also okay. He's got a little bit of pace and fitness. He's got 15 finishing, 12 composure, so he could maybe score some goals. But he's 18 already, so he's just taking up space at this point. All these guys are basically just taking up space, unless our opinion of their potential changes over the year. I don't see us keeping any of these guys at all. So it was just sort of a waste of money and time, but you know what? We're sticking with it. We promised these guys a job. We're going to let them sit in the academy and train. Maybe they'll get better. Who knows? We're contributing to American soccer. Anyway, I guess that brings us to the transfers, because we had a lot of transfers. I did a lot of crazy stuff here. Let's go to the transfers. We got a couple in the hopper right now. We got a couple guys going out on loan, Mark Smith and Patrick Youngs, a couple of our draft picks from the last 2 seasons. Don't have room for them on the bench, so we're sending them out on loan. And then we got Arturo Luna, a 16-year-old from Mexico. Why I'm bringing this guy in, I don't know. He's terrible. If I could stop this trade, I would, but I can't, so I won't. He'll be coming in a couple of months. Maybe when the time comes, I can get rid of him, but he's just another fodder for the academy, I guess. He's 16 years old. Don't at me, bro. Anyway, let's get to the actual transfer history. As you can see, it is quite big, quite large. We've got all of our draft picks up there, all those terrible free transfers. We got to look at some players that we let go. So in the offseason, you saw we let go Danny Wilson, starting central defender, 30 years old. He is now with Orlando City. He got picked up in the re-entry draft. So he was a bit of a loss for us. He was our veteran backstop. But, he was making a lot of money, and we have a lot of young central defenders. We just had to make room, honestly. Get out. Bennett Sneddon, goalkeeper. As you can see, he is back with us at FC Cincinnati. So we let him go in the offseason, brought him back because we had a little bit of a problem at goalkeeper. We'll look at that in a minute. Mohamed Appiah gone. Steve Hudson, our reserve keeper, traded him to Atlas in the Mexican division. He's a guy that we could use for sure. He's a very solid player. But, we had Zach Steffen, so I figured this guy's never going to play. He's always complaining about playing time. We'll get some value out of him, and we got $1.1 million out of him, essentially. Then we sent a bunch of guys out on loan. You see a bunch of guys to the academy, a bunch of guys to Atlanta and North Carolina, our affiliates. Some players here and there. And then, wait a minute, what's this? Zach Steffen to West Brom. They paid his fee, his transfer fee. Couldn't stop it, couldn't do anything about it. So we lost, after we traded away all of our goalkeepers, we then lost Zach Steffen. So that is a bit of a blow to our whole situation here. That's not great. Then we sent out more players on loan. Several players on loan. So that's the outgoing. Not a ton of outgoing transfers other than the big one, Zach Steffen. And that threw everything out of whack. Like, once that happened, I'm like, oh my God, we need goalkeepers. We need thousands and thousands and thousands of goalkeepers. So we re-signed Sneddon. First of all, you saw that. And then we went down and down and down and made some moves here. So you saw at the end of last year, Brett Kadkodian, we brought him in there, 20-year-old striker. We got him for $2 million from AS Monaco. So overpaid for him a little bit. He's valued at $1.4 million. He's fast. He's got that acceleration that we like, flair, leadership off the ball. He's got some nice attributes, but he's basically a one-dimensional player. He's just a striker, just a goal scorer, so he doesn't really give any sort of versatility, but, we needed some strikers because we let go of Adi in the offseason, and he's a guy who can give us a bit of a change of pace up top as well. An advanced playmaker, he can get behind the defense and score some breakaway goals. We don't always have to work the ball up the field the way we kind of do at the moment. Then I found this little bargain in Brazil, Antonor Miguel for $160,000, 19-year-old Brazilian worth $1.9 million, and he's actually a better, more well-rounded player than Brett. I really got to try to remember this name, Brett Kadkodian. We'll call him Brett the Hitman Hart. So yeah, he's better than the Hitman is. He is, more well-rounded physically, mentally, and technically. He can do a few more things. He's got 18 technique, a lot of room to grow. He's got 4-star, maybe even 5-star potential. So, he's pretty good. And we got him really cheap for $160,000. That's just, as I mentioned in the last video, this is the difference between South America and Brazil and Europe. It's like night and day when it comes to transfer fees. Anyway, we also went south of the border to Atlas, the team that we traded Hudson to, and we got their reserve keeper, Jose Hernandez, 24-year-old Mexican. Decent player, not quite as good as Hudson, but in the same sort of ballpark as Hudson. 24 years old, 2.5 stars, 4-star potential, so he's got some room to grow. 14 reflexes, he's okay. His one problem is he's a sweeper keeper. I don't really use sweeper keepers, so we're going to have to retrain him as a regular type keeper. And then to keep the keepers coming, we got Yvonne Diouf from Troyes for $975,000. And he's a little bit better. 22 years old, so even younger, valued at $2 million. And, also a sweeper keeper, but he's a little more well-rounded. Maybe his reflexes aren't as high, but everything else is a little better. Aerial reach, jumping reach, agility, all that stuff. He's a 3-star player, and he's got 4.5-star potential. So he could be an outstanding keeper, and he's probably going to be our starter going forward. So we're going to have to grow with this young kid, but, he's got a lot of potential. And then finally, free transfer, Santiago Torres, 24-year-old right defender. He's not very good, but we needed some depth during the preseason, honestly. So we had him in on loan, and then we finally just made his loan permanent. Not on loan. We had him in on trial. Finally made it permanent because he played pretty well in the preseason, so I just brought him in. He's a nothing type player. $70,000 is his contract. 13 tackling, so he can at least tackle. He's got 14 pace, 15 acceleration, so he can give us a lot of speed and tackling at the fullback position. That's good enough to get on the roster, I think. So as you can see, no big-time players were brought in through the transfers. Now, it's not for lack of trying. I basically went to the scouting page and I looked for anybody and everybody who had good world reputation, and just sort of looked for the biggest players. And there were a bunch of players who are, by 2022, they're a little older. They're in their mid-30s. Some of them are looking to retire. But I tried to bring in anybody whose name I recognize, I went down the list and clicked on everybody and just tried anybody, any position, come to America. And nobody wanted to come. Not one single person. Either they said, I don't want to take a step back by joining MLS, or you can't afford us. They just looked at us and said, you can't afford me, bro. We're not coming over there. And basically, I think they looked at our finances, looked at our payroll, only $10 million. We're already spending 9 of that 10. I think everybody just said, no, we're not taking, $1 million to come to the U.S. So I think we're not going to be able to sign any big-time player, no Zlatan-type guy is going to come over here until we raise this payroll. So the board isn't interested in doing that because we got, stadium renovations and stuff coming up. You look at the board here. We got a ground expansion coming up that's going to cost $7 million. So they're not interested in spending more money on the budget. So we're kind of stuck at that. However, there is another way you can bring in players through MLS, and that is through the trades. And we made quite a few trades in the off season. So we traded away Zendejas for some draft picks. Got lots of draft picks. So that's a goalkeeper, gone. Traded away Kiri Shelton. More draft picks, including the 4th overall pick in the Super Draft. Aguirre, we traded him away, including the 3rd pick of the draft. So we got a lot of draft picks this year. That's where a lot of those draft picks came from. We traded away for the rights to Adrian Arroyo, and I don't know that we were able to bring him in. We were not able to bring him in because he's not really that good, but we do have him on the short list just in case we need to bring him in. Again, that was during that fever dream of trying to bring in all the youngsters in the world. Anyway, then we traded away a bunch of our lower draft picks for general allocation money and targeted allocation money. A lot of targeted allocation money because we made a humongous trade. possibly the largest trade in MLS history. Cincinnati traded away 2.2 in targeted allocation money, 8.75 million in general allocation money, an international slot, 2 first-round draft picks, and a second-round draft pick. That's huge. That's a lot. That's a lot of assets right there. And what did we get? We got Andrew Carleton from Atlanta United, 21 years old, possibly the best American prospect I've ever seen, at least in MLS. Now, there's other young American prospects who are playing overseas right now who are better than this guy. But holy cow, this guy is really good. 3.5-star potential, possibly 4.5-star potential. He may have maxed out. This is the one issue with this trade. He may have maxed out at 3.5 stars. If that's the case, then we overpaid by quite a bit. But if he can actually improve, then we have our next superstar here. Now, he looks like a kind of a weirdo in this picture, I'm not going to lie. But his attributes are really good. He's fast. Pretty good physical attributes, very good mental attributes, determined. He's got flair, 16 composure, 14 vision. This guy can play all over the field. He can play just about any position in the midfield and above. Technique, passing, long shooting, decent for 21 years old. Let's not forget he's still only 21 years old, so he still has some growing to do. Free kick taking, dribbling, finishing. He's probably going to play for us, left wing, I would assume, or central midfield. Basically, if anybody gets hurt, this guy's going in for him. He could even play striker with all that composure. We're training him up. I think right now we're training him up in the midfield. So we'll see how he reacts to possibly playing in the midfield, but we'll see. But yeah, so this was the big move. Now, he was unhappy in Atlanta because Atlanta wouldn't give him a designated player contract. So we have signed him to a designated player contract for next season, not this season. So this season, he's only costing us $149,000. Next year, what's our contract offer? Player already has agreed to a contract at the club. Does it show it here? It doesn't show his next year's contract. But anyway, he's going to be a young designated player next year. So he was sort of the big signing. Now, we do still have room. We do have another designated player slot, so we could bring in another one. We could technically bring in 2 more this season if we could bring in a guy on just like a 1-year contract. That would be interesting. But anyway, we got room to bring in more players. If maybe the board will give us more salary, they probably won't, but I don't know. We can always go over that and just take the consequences. Anyway, yeah. So that was the big move of the transfers. Carleton, I don't exactly know where he's going to fit yet, but we don't need him yet because our starting 11 is still where it's at. So we just need him basically for Champions League later in the year. We don't need him this early part of Champions League. Okay. So, let's get to the schedule. Now that you've seen all the guys we brought in, what have we done with those guys? Well, we've gone undefeated in preseason. That's pretty good. And we've been smashing people. We went on a little tour of South America here and, smashed a bunch of teams. 4-0, 4-0, 4-0. I mean, North Carolina, but, we just killed everybody. We beat Toronto 3-0. I mean, this was basically as close to our starting lineup as we're going to get right now. You can see we just dominated, that continuity from last season. It's still there. It's still paying off. That's why I didn't want to mess with our starting 11. So in spite of all the wacky changes I made in the off season, we still have that ability to win games. So here's Alashy to Acosta. Wide open. We're playing Toronto FC here. Just no chance when Acosta gets to his special spot. Then here's Akechi doing what he does. Free kick taking. Alvarez had a shot at that one, but it bounced off. And then DeVries doing what he does. Special teams. Sonora on the back post. They still have that little connection, the two wingers. So it's the beginning of the year. Everybody's fresh. Everybody's healthy. Everybody is looking really good. And so I think we're going to be ready for Champions League, especially since we got Montreal coming up first. Now, before we get to that, we're going to end this episode with a little game versus Atlanta Silverbacks, one of our affiliate clubs. We've beaten them 3 times. Play them every year, a little friendly, and we get to beat them every year. So we're going to have all of our reserves in. We're going to get to see some of those young players that you looked at that we brought in. We're going to play a bunch of them here, including our man Carlton. We're going to see how good he is. Santos on the right wing. Miguel, we're going to take a look at him, see how good he is. A lot of decent players in there, a lot of youngsters. We're going to see what they can do against Atlanta. Should be a nice victory. Nice victory. So, we've got Jose Hernandez in goal. One of our new players. Vargas making his debut, sort of, at left back. Cobian been with us for a couple of years. He was a draft pick last season. He's getting better. He improved in the offseason. So, he's one of our top 4 rotations. Same with Lee, one of our last great academy players. He's in there. He also wants more playing time. Torres, Santiago Torres, he's going to get in there. Fernando Arce Jr., we saw him last year. There's Carlton. Andrew Carlton. I don't know about that hair, dude, but whatever. We got Wadey taking the captain's armband. Crispum, probably wouldn't normally play Crispum, but he is lacking match sharpness. He hasn't been able to get in any matches this season. Santos, one of our draft picks this year. He's going to be in at right wing. And then Miguel up top. So we'll see what they can do. Do they have any of our players in here? We've loaned some players out to Atlanta, but I don't recognize any of those names per se. So let's just go in the pep talk. Kickoff. Here we go. Atlanta Stadium. Full house. Full crowd in effect for the defending MLS champions to play against Atlanta Silverbacks. I'm sure that would bring in the crowds. So yeah, I don't recognize any of those names. Anyway, here's Vargas. Carlton has it. See what he can do. He gets to the special spot. He shoots, and he scores. First goal. Hope to see a lot of that this season and in many seasons to come, because we paid a lot of money for this guy. A lot of draft picks. Carlton. I mean, that was not great goalkeeping by any stretch. But hey, we'll take it. We will definitely take it. So I guess he can play in the midfield. We're playing him at deep-lying playmaker right now just because that's kind of his best thing he can do in the midfield. There's Carlton. He gets it again. Gives us a lot of speed in the midfield. I tell you what, he's got the speed of a winger hanging out in the midfield. He loses it, but it goes to Miguel. To Santos. He shoots it. That's not good. Back to Carlton. He's kind of holding things together in the midfield. Yeah, where are you going? There we go. Good pass to Wade. He gets it to the captain. He shoots and scores. So Wadey's kind of the forgotten man. He hasn't really improved over the last few seasons. He just kind of, he's maybe improved a little bit, but not enough to really crack the starting lineup or to even be in our plans. But he is still just a solid guy. He doesn't mind sitting on the bench and doesn't mind, being a reserve. So there's something to be said for that. 25 years old, he's got some ability. He's got leadership, teamwork, work rate. you know, he's not great, but he can do in a pinch, I suppose, in MLS. Here's Carlton again, leading the attack, getting forward, racing forward, loses it. And, all right, Hernandez going to use some of those sweeper-keeper skills. Play it forward, Kobian. It's Carlton. He's lost the ball a few times in midfield, but there he goes. Just charging through the defense, out wide to Santos. Yeah, you can see that it's the youngsters. Oh, Torres avoids the tackle. Carlton going to take the left-footed shot off the post. Carlton is a bit greedy with the ball at the moment. You know, he does have that sort of superstar mentality, I guess. Knocks the ball past opponent, runs with the ball often, cuts inside from the left wing. He's already an influential player, already in the core social group. Yeah, he's already pretty good. Did we overpay? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we overpaid. But you know what? It's kind of the best player we could get. And I sort of became infatuated with him, too. It's one of those things where it's like, I saw he was available. He was transfer listed. But Atlanta, oh, here we go. Wadey for his second goal. This time, assist from Santos. So, like, Carlton was transfer listed. He was unhappy. So I'm like, all right, we can get this guy. He's available. But every time I went to trade with Atlanta, they were like, no, no, no. We don't want anything you got. So I just started throwing ridiculous numbers at him. I just started throwing everything at him. And eventually they accepted one of my ridiculous offers. So I just took it. I was like, oh my God, they're accepting it. I'll take it. So I don't know what they were hoping to get. But basically, let's see. Basically, they got like 8, 10. They got like $12 million for the guy in assets. So that's pretty good for a guy who's looks to be worth $4.5 million. So I think Atlanta should be happy with that deal. What they'll do with all that money, I don't know. It'll be an interesting offseason once we look at the MLS and see all the trades and moves and see what anybody did, because Atlanta's going to have a huge amount of money to work with. All right, so we're up 3-0 at half. Pretty good. Still on cruise control here. Carlton on an 8.2. Wadey on an 8.7. So we're kind of killing them. Start the second half. We'll make some subs at the 60-minute point, I think. Bring in any other youngsters that we haven't looked at. I'd like to see Miguel do something. That would be nice. What's he playing? He's playing as the advanced forward. All right, that's his best role. Ars Jr. and Crispum aren't playing too well. I mean, not bad, but sort of average. Here we go. Wadey on the corner. Poor man's DeVries is basically what he is. Lee gathers it up. Drops it to Ars Jr. Kobian takes the shot. Wow. The central defender with a rocket from the semicircle. And he scores. I mean, at this point, why not? Why not take a chance? And that's a decent tackle, but it goes right to Kobian. He just turns and fires. He's got skills. He's more than just a central defender. He's actually trained to be a defensive midfielder. He can use either foot. You got 3 long shooting. Oh, Pittman scores for Atlanta. No, Summer scores. They had too many guys highlighted. Reed's highlighted. Pittman's highlighted. Reed's the one who delivered it. Why do they have Pittman highlighted? Is he offside? No. Not from there. Not from that angle. Totally onside. All right, so Silverbacks, they got one back. 60 minutes. Let's see, who are we going to bring in? Why do we have these guys on the bench? I don't know. So we got Christopher Conroy on the bench. Another goalkeeper, 24 years old. I think he's on the bench because he's registered for Champions League, so we need to get him a little bit of playing time, just in case. Who else? Richie Salvador, he could use some playing time. We'll get Carlton out of there. He's proved whatever he needed to prove. Denner needs some playing time for sure. Get him in there. Miguel is disinterested. So let's bring in Kikodian. Those two are going to be fighting it out to see who gets to play this year. One of those guys will probably have to go out on loan because I'm sure they'll be complaining. So basically, whoever complains first is out of here. And then if the other guy complains, well, we'll figure that out when we get to it. So here we go. Conroy now in. Sending it forward. Vargas is going to try to start things. Denner. Sort of the odd man out. I tried to trade him. I tried to get rid of him, but nobody wants him. So we're just going to keep him. He's happy to be here, I suppose. Tries to send a ball forward to the hitman, but can't do it. Here comes Atlanta on the attack now. Still only 66 minutes down, so there's plenty of time. Atlanta could make things interesting here with a goal. McHale down the far side, centers it. Nobody there on the cross. So this is a mega highlight. Let's see, back and forth. So is there a pattern to these kind of highlights? Because we went down the field, then they came down the field. Now we're going down the field. Kikodian, the hitman, no, he gets tackled, but Richie Salvador is there. He blasts it through the brick wall. Pretty good shot there. 13 shots, 8 on target. They have 1 shot on target and 1 goal. Not good. 19 fouls now for the Silverbacks. They are trying their heart out, but it's not quite working. Look at this, Kobian playing well. 76 minutes now. Vargas wins the header, gets it to Crispum. Been shaving the roster down quite a bit, to get us MLS legal. So that's why a lot of the youngsters aren't here in the reserves, because they've gone out on loan. So basically, it's all we have left are the 35 guys who are registered for Champions League, plus a couple of others that we weren't able to get registered in time. Kobian sends it forward. No. Atlanta recovers at midfield. Hoffman going to try to work it in. So hopefully we can, not take Montreal too much for granted. Here's Crispum, sends it forward. Kikodian using that speed. Look at him just accelerate past the defense. Can't beat the keeper, but that's a good idea of what he can do. That speed and acceleration, it's noticeable, especially against, this level of competition. Denner now sends one in. Atlanta, Kobian wins it. Gets it to Richie Salvador. Ooh, good pass out to Denner, who's on the right-hand side. Tries to get it to Kikodian, can't do it. Arsman, Crispum, tackled. Kikodian wins it. He's got a nice motor on him. He's playing strong. He loses the ball there, though. But yeah, he's at least a little bit more interested than Miguel. That's points in his favor. Crispin with a wide shot. Hitman. Yeah, he still looks pretty good to me. He's going to take the free kick. Back post to Lee. Lee gets his own rebound, puts it in. So the guys who've been with the team for a while are the ones who are, playing the best. Lee, Wadey. See if he was onside. Yep. Totally onside. Okay. Vargas, 24-year-old. Oh, Vargas. Yeah, he's that guy we drafted in the super draft, a 24-year-old, the oldest super draft player I've ever drafted. He can play center back or fullback. Here's Rivas. Conroy with the stop. Outstanding. Point blank shot. Yeah, I forgot about Vargas. So basically we drafted him just because he was kind of the best player available at the pick. I didn't really want to pick him because he was so old, but he's pretty much the most ready defender coming out of college. I mean, at 24 years old, you'd think so. Still, here's Richie Salvador. Gets it to Crispin with the shot. He scores. So Vargas should make an interesting reserve for us this season. A little bit of flexibility. I like guys on the reserve who can play more than one position. Denner sends it in. Richie Salvador, Crispin, turn, fire, goal. Hooray. Atlanta's made a ton of subs. I mean, I don't really want to bring... I guess I could bring in... No. 2 minutes left. No reason to bring anybody in. 1 minute to go. Are we going to get a 7th goal here? Denner avoids a tackle. Out wide to Vargas. We're in number 3. Sends it in. Oh, terrible punch by the keeper, but no harm, no foul, I guess. 30 seconds to go. Play it back to the keeper. One more drive downfield. Vargas back in position. Kobe uncensored forward. All right, let's just let's get this over with. I'm out of things to talk about at this point. Just want to get ready for the season. Next episode will be Champions League. So this one is mercifully over. Carlton, Wadey with a pair. Kobian and Lee. So both of our central defenders scored. We got to see Carlton in action. So you can see, his quality in the midfield. He's probably better suited as a winger with the way he likes to run with the ball and knock it past opponents. So he could cause us some problems in the midfield. So basically, he's like an insurance policy. If Wadey gets hurt, if DeVries gets hurt again this year, we're going to throw Carlton in there. If Akechi gets hurt, we'll throw him in there. Basically, if anybody gets hurt anywhere, Carlton's going in. But then it's a matter of where do I put him in the long, looking at the long view. Like, where does he fit in this team? We might have to go with 2 central midfielders and forget about the Z formation, but I don't know that I want to do that. So it's a question. It's one of those general manager kind of situations where they bring in a guy who's super talented, but now it's up to the coach to figure out where to put him. And that is a big, big question. I don't know. Right wing, possibly. Left wing. I mean, do we don't want to replace DeVries or Sonora. I don't know. It's a question. It's not one I'm not going to be able to figure out today. Oh, we got a transfer offer. Let's take a look at that real quick before we end the episode. No offers for White. Philadelphia wants to trade for Philippe, offering $2.5 million. Plus 2 second-round picks for Philippe. Now, Philippe, I'd like to start him, but I don't know that we will. So these are essentially going to be our starters. Oops, don't have a goalkeeper, but Blackman, Glad, Richard, Stevenson, Acosta, Alashi, Akechi, DeVries, Sonura, Przbilko. Alashi wants to start. He's made no bones about that. He wants to start. 28 years old. We can't trade him. We can't get rid of him. He's a team leader. Philippe is injured also at the moment. We do have Arce Jr. as a reserve. So maybe we should, I don't know. Maybe we will. We'll come back next episode. We'll leave on that cliffhanger. We'll come back next episode to see if we trade him or not. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.